And kia ora everybody, and welcome along to our let's go turn that off. Apologies. Welcome everybody to our very first Get Into Gaming live stream. Whoa, why is my echo on there? Sorry, I'm just trying to turn a few things off here. And yes, we're coming live from Digital Natives Academy on here, and for some reason this wants to keep on talking, so I'll just sort this out eventually. That's on my phone. But yes, welcome along. We're going to be talking tonight just a little bit about our Get Into Gaming series. It has been a lovely little work we've put on together between us here at Digital Natives Academy and, of course, the Ministry of Education as well. And the whole idea around it is really to be inform and inspire our young tamariki out there as well into and about the world of gaming, which is something that we all love very much and that we spend a bit of time on here at Digital Natives Academy. My name is Marcus, aka DJ Blaze, and I will be hosting us through today. But I'm also joined here by our lovely Nicolosa. Welcome on in.
Kia ora, kia ora. Hello, everyone. Good to have everyone here. Really excited about today. It's been really interesting watching the last couple of days, listening to our speakers, listening to the experts in the field, really kind of highlighting the pathways. We've been able to look at all the questions that you, as parents, have sent through. So we'll be structuring today's stream or tonight's stream around those questions to make sure that we're getting to the heart of what you've been really wanting to know. So great to be here.
And yeah, with the Get Into Gaming so far as well, before we dive into everything as well, so tonight we'll be going through a little bit about esports first, just to give a chance for all the parents out there to jump on in, and then we're going to be covering, looking at the actual gaming industry itself and those possible career pathways. I know a lot of you out there are very interested in those. And then to finish off, we'll be looking at just a little bit of online well-being and, just sort of taking care of yourselves online. And then, of course, answering any questions we happen to see come through chat as well. We are keeping a little side eye on chat just to see if down there. So if you've got any questions, please send them through and we will do our best to answer them. But yeah, so far with Get Into Game series, we've had some amazing interviews from some really awesome people. And, sort of the big things that have come through, like topic-wise, has definitely been, follow your passion. So for our young ones out there, if you are passionate about something, it's really going to show through in your work. So, don't be afraid to follow your passion. You don't have to follow the crowd. Follow what you love and what you want to do. So that was one of the very big pieces of advice that came out from across the board from all of our lovely guests. There was also, some of them did mention that if you are trying to follow your passion, try and find other people who also share similar passions as well. It makes, if you're trying to do it by yourself, it's always a lot more difficult than if you're trying to if you meet up with other people and you're doing it, together as a group. It's much more easier to bounce ideas off each other. You'll have a better chance to actually maybe have different skill sets involved. Somebody might be really good at art, somebody might be good at music, and then if you find people who are passionate about it, boom, you can put those together. And the other one was pathways, which again, we're going to be covering that as well, but there is many different pathways. Even ourselves, we all started off in different ways. My degree is in physical education, and now I'm over here, teaching things about gaming. So it's, there is no sort of one set pathway into this as well. So we will cover that a little bit more as we go through as well. Another big one was just start. Just do it. Got that Nike ad, just straight up do it. If you want to get into the industry, want to try and start something out, want, to be involved, just do it. Don't wait. If you're waiting, it's going to pass you by. So that's the big things. And then, if you are going to do it, you need to keep learning and you need to work hard. This is not something that you can just do very easily as with anything, it's hard work and we are constantly learning and constantly teaching ourselves. So yeah, that's sort of the main messages that have been coming through, from interviews. We've still got 2 more days to go. So tomorrow is pretty much all about content creation when that comes through, and then Friday is a little bit about the pathways and just sort of highlighting a few of the different people and stuff out there as well. So yeah, hope everybody's ready to jump on board as we look into a little bit about the esports. But Asa, do you just want to just give everybody a quick rundown on who we are and what we do?
Yes. So, as I said, my name is Lassa. I am one of the founders of Digital Natives Academy. My husband, Potawa, is the other founder. He's Ngāti Whakaue, Ngāti Pikiao, Ngāi Tūhoi, some Niuean in there. And in 2014, we came to the conclusion that we absolutely needed an organization that would allow our children to staircase into the industry. So we had worked in tech, we had run a successful business, building websites and databases and apps. And as we became more successful, we were finding that we had very few people to hand the mahi over to. So those closest to us didn't have the skills, and those that did have the skills were full up with work. So we started to see that there was going to be a severe shortage in skilled digital, in the skilled digital workforce. So we opened up one room, got a bunch of computers that were absolutely horrible, and just started. And we started with coding, teaching our kids to code. We did some robotics. We did drones, anything to inspire our tamariki and our rangatahi to engage in this space and to see themselves in this space. And that's really what this whole week-long event has been about. It's been really trying to get our children to understand that if they have an absolute love for gaming, and that's something that came through in all of the interviews with all of these experts in the field, is their absolute passion for gaming, and that's what drove them. But it was more than that. It was more than playing the game. It was a desire to go behind that and be a part of something greater than themselves. So that's what DNA is about, and that's really what this event is about.
Awesome. Just checking, somebody in the chat mentioned yours is a little bit quiet. Hopefully it's a little bit better now.
I'll get closer to this mic.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yes. Talk into the microphone.
Thanks,
These are the other little bits and pieces that we do teach as well here, just how technology actually works in a way. I saw Sub-Zero in chat. Yeah. Will PC gaming industry grow in the future? Yes, it will. PC is pretty much the way forward. Even console gaming and consoles as well are moving much more closer to PC specs, and yeah, it's basically a no-brainer that PCs will continue to grow. Not to say that they will never, the consoles will not have a place, but the reality, and this is kind of a thing that we really want to push forward as well, is that on consoles you cannot create. They're very limited in what you can do outside of just playing games and playing media. That's kind of their main things. Whereas on a PC, yep, games, media, those are the basics. But you can do so much more on a PC. You can create games, you can create music, you can create videos, you can do everything. We're live streaming now through PC, running multiple cameras and stuff. So, PCs, they are very much something that will be continually driving forward, and as technology continues to evolve as well, a lot of exciting stuff is very much around the corner as well. So they will keep on being a very strong, focal point moving forward and technology-wise. But moving along, we're going to quickly just show you a little video first. It's like a nice little intro into sort of the world of esports as well. And then we'll be back right after that to just discuss a little bit more about it. Catch you in a minute.
Have you guys seen Esports and the E-League?
I don't know if that's sports, but it's great
asking if
mind
you've seen
savvy.
But I don't know if athlete is the right word that I would go for.
If you don't break a sweat, I don't consider it a sport.
Oh, no, you do.
Watching people play video games isn't like watching people play football. It's like watching people play fantasy football. It is one more step removed from human activity. You understand?
It's video games. It shouldn't be on a sports network. It's video games.
But can it truly be a spectator sport?
It already is. 71 million watched it last year. They reckon it's going to, by 2017, it'll be 145 million people watching it.
There
actually giving college scholarships for
Video gamers?
for video gaming.
You're kidding.
And it's even gone to the point that now the government has acknowledged professional video gamers as athletes.
Same way you'd watch a football match, you can hear the crowd, everyone's cheering the team on, you make friends, these are people you talk to, you play with online. It's all about community, it's being part of something that you're incredibly passionate about.
Running for Barrett though right now, trying to establish vision control and force Ambition! Ambition steals the Elder Dragon! He gets away! There's no lives! This is a 4-Drake Elder Dragon! He lives! Ambition saves the game once again!
So that was just a short little video that the lovely people down at Riot put together, just showing sort of the pushback that there has been, especially in the media, against sort of esports, and also a lot of the misunderstandings around it as well. And again, we see the exact same thing here in local media in New Zealand as well. There is quite a sort of a disparity, just like with the understanding of this. Video games, in the past it's like kind of been, okay, it's just people playing a game. Yes, that's true, but these days, it's video games has very much eclipsed that, and the esports scene is absolutely massive. What you saw, some of the crowds in there, is a very small part of just how big this is worldwide. And I have been in person to some of these tournaments and stuff overseas as well, and I kid you not when I say that they are insane. You've got thousands of people packing out stadiums watching these games live. And, I think the only thing crowd-wise that's probably come close to it would be like the Sevens. Just like the amount of hype that goes around there. Going to an All Blacks rugby game, you don't get the same amount of hype that you do when you go to events like this. So that's, it's very much a real thing. Even though I know a lot of, especially in New Zealand, it's hard to sort of realize that because we don't have many of the big events here yet. We do have small events. We've had them, up across the country, and we'll be having more of them coming up, especially now that we're out of lockdown. We don't have to worry about that as much here too. So, keep an eye out for events in your area as well to get on and just basically see what it's actually all about.
I think that's a really good, important point that you make, Marcus. I know that in some of the conversations that we had over this week, some of the pro players that we talked to said it was actually at these events that their families realized the significance of the space. So regardless of whether you agree with whether esports is a sport, I think the thing to remember is that our children are absolutely passionate, and the range of emotions that they feel when they're playing are just as powerful as if they were playing a physical sport. So I think there's a lot to kind of just remember when it comes to our kids in that space. They absolutely enjoy it, and how do we take that joy and that interest and turn it towards something that might be a little bit more productive. So many of our kids will say they want to be pro players, and so that gives them license to play and play and play. But the reality is, very few will become pro players, and if they are really committed to that, then there really is a need for discipline and balance in their lives, and that's something as a parent. So there will be a segment of our children that go into that pathway and become pro players. And when you talk to them, what they will say is just as important as the gaming is important as their nutrition and their fitness and their sleep and their studying and their backup plans. So it's really good to remind our kids that is one avenue, and all power to them, but what's their backup plan and how are they going to kind of anticipate that and work towards it?
And also for parents out there as well, exactly, kids, they want to go pro. Okay, cool. How are they going to do that? So don't let yourselves get suckered in by the kids to say like, yeah, cool, I'm playing the game as much as I can. That's how I'm going to get good. That's not how you get good. So don't let kids, just sort of go, oh yeah, I'm just going to spend this amount of hours, which means I can go pro. That's not how it works. That's not how it works in sports. That's not how it works in any other competitive industry. Video games is just the same as well. You can't make it pro by just playing the game alone. You need to study the game. You need to actually figure out what are the ins and outs, what are the good things to do, what are the bad things to do. There's this whole learning system. When you play rugby, you need to learn how to pass, you need to learn how to tackle, you need to do all those little subsets, sub-skills before you can actually go out and play on the field. And then, even then, you've got to practice and spend so many hours practicing different skills, different ideas until you can actually reach the top. Video games is no different. So, if you're spending 10 hours a day playing Fortnite thinking you're going to go pro, and just by playing the game over and over again, you're not going to go pro. You need to go through, do research, look at videos, see what pro players are doing, see what other people are doing, get into actual competitive matches against other top tier players, and that's how you're going to slowly rise up the ranks. Again, and, join local tournaments, join actual tournaments as well. That's something I can't sort of reiterate enough, is a tournament, like playing in a tournament competitive environment in video games is completely different than playing solo queue. Solo queue is just team deathmatch and everyone just running around like headless chickens. But playing in an actual tournament with actual teams and actual communication, coming up with strategies, talking to your other team for the first thing is something that a lot of people are probably not actually used to as well, especially in, young people playing games out there as well. Actually having proper conversations with your teammates about what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, how you're going to, go through and do stuff like this. We're not talking about just like, oh yeah, this is my day, la da la da da, oh yeah, I'm going to kill this guy. Oh, this guy's over here. Where's over there? How are you going to do this? Where's your team going next? So there's all these things there. And so if you're, if your kids are out there and they want to get better at the game, or they want to maybe do this, encourage them to actually research the game. That's kind of the big thing, and join local tournaments. But yeah, so moving along, we've got a short little video from a friend of ours based up in Auckland from Rocketworks. And so after we finish watching through this, then we're going to go pretty heavily into the actual career pathways, because I know a lot of you out there are very interested in that. So we'll be back very shortly after this short little video.
Kia ora, I'm Stephen Knightley, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at a video game studio called Rocketworks. And the next time you're in downtown Auckland at the waterfront, if you look up at the PwC Tower, that's the tallest building in downtown Auckland, the top floor is us, a video game studio. So in a building full of accountants and lawyers and business consultants, the top floor is actually a creative industry, a video game studio. And I suppose that's what I wanted to reassure parents of teenagers and students who are looking to get into creative technology as a career, that yes, this is a real thing that exists. The video games industry in New Zealand last year in 2020 earned over $320 million. And most of that was exports that we sent to the rest of the world. So that makes us bigger than New Zealand's local film industry, bigger than the music industry. It actually makes us one of the biggest software exporters in New Zealand. It's growing about 40% per year, and the industry is hungry for talent. We're hiring, creating about 150 new jobs every single year, and that's just within entertainment video games. The skills that you need to make a video game, the technology, the design, the entrepreneurial thinking, they're also in really high demand in other industries as well, like other software industries, the film industry, and even education. So one of the things I say to parents when they ask me about the games industry is that even a failed game developer ends up becoming an incredibly skilled app developer or web developer. The skills they learn are easily transferable to other careers. Gaming can also be quite a nice way to motivate students to study more or study some more serious topics. So the type of skills that they need are going to be maths, but both maths with statistics and maths with calculus, as well as English and social studies. If your school offers digital technologies, that's fantastic for them to get hands-on experience creating digital media and interactive media. What I find often is if there's a student who's really motivated about gaming, It's up to them maybe to say to their teacher, hey, for my project this term, I want to do a video game. I want to do an interactive app, or I want to do some augmented reality or virtual reality. But once they make that request of a teacher, the New Zealand curriculum has a whole bunch of boxes that they could easily put that project into. Now, the trick, I think, when you're talking to students about wanting to get into game development is it's easy for them to spend hours and hours every week playing games. And the challenge that you need to give to our students is to not just play the game, but to create something in the game. Even if it's taking Fortnite and then modding it, or making creative levels. Or in Minecraft, sure, you do lots of making, but can they do something more sophisticated? The challenge is to get them from just playing games to maybe downloading a game engine like Unity or Unreal Engine, which are free. There are free student versions of them out there, and then actually starting to make the game. And that's the next step, that after a little while they'll realize what's involved in that. So don't let them just tell you that since they're playing 20 hours of Fortnite a week that they're going to become a professional game developer or esports professional. The step they need to take is to actually creating the games. But once they do, they'll find there's a huge support network for that. There are professional industry meetups in most cities in New Zealand for the games industry, and we're really welcoming of students. Sometimes we have weekend game jams, which are again opportunities for students even to get involved. And once you get to tertiary education, there are specialist degrees in most New Zealand universities and a whole bunch of private training institutes that teach game development these days as a profession. And they've got good links into the industry. So as a game studio, we go to those universities, we go to places like the Media Design School and UB colleges to recruit. And we're looking for those smart students, in particular those who have actually taken the time to follow their passions and make their own games at home by themselves or with some friends. And genuinely, we're looking for diversity too. There's enough middle-aged white guys in the industry like me, but we're really interested in the unique perspectives that different people bring to our sector as well. So the games industry, it's serious, it's real, it's permanent, good-paying jobs, and we would love to. We're really excited as an industry to keep growing and just create the type of jobs that we think New Zealand needs more of. And we'd love to have your students and children be part of that industry.
Thank you very much, Stephen, for that. That's some great insight into just sort of where they're coming from as an actual studio based here in New Zealand. Yes, we do have studios based here in New Zealand as well. And again, as just to reiterate on what he said as well, follow your passion. It's one of the big things to do, and spend your time wisely, and try and spend it as creatively as you can as well. Just a quick note with Rocketworks as well, they do have their new project Icarus is coming out in August, I believe, as well, which is basically a AAA survival game, again made right here in New Zealand. So there are those industry pathways are very much available here in Aotearoa, and Rocketworks is one of the great companies out there that are making games and hiring people to help make those games. So we do have a little bit of a slide here that's just to sort of help us kind of talk a little bit more about the kind of the gaming ecosystem and just sort of how all of it comes together. I see somebody asked, 5 specific job titles. One of the really sort of cool things, and I guess also difficult to sort of understand things as well with the gaming industry, because it's so new, job titles are also kind of new as well, and also a little bit, they kind of change a little bit. It's like trying to describe sort of what somebody does can be a little bit difficult, but there is sort of, I guess, like a sort of like an overview of like different types of jobs within the industry. And I mean, you'll be looking at like game art, so artistic design is one of them. Coding is definitely another one as well. Social media and community management is another big one as well. And then project management is another side of things as well. And I think marketing, designing, all these other kind of things. So there's it's not just one little thing, just like in the music industry or the entertainment industry and things like that. There's many different facets to it. Games is exactly the same. But yeah, essentially, but games themselves, it's entertainment. They are entertainment. We play games to have fun. We also play games to to relax, Esport players play games obviously to compete, but it is something that we do and use as entertainment. And of course, entertainment has always been around for a very, very long time, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. Entertainment is something that we, is very much embedded within human nature. So games are just as a much more interactive form of entertainment. Instead of just sitting there and watching the TV, watching those Netflix shows, you're actually there controlling what's happening in there. So that's kind of the cool thing about gaming, and why a lot of people do very much enjoy it. But yeah, if we just sort of make our way sort of through the slide. So as I said, humans, we are, that is the entertainment side of things. That's what we do. We watch stuff. But there's different ways in which we sort of interact with that stuff. If you want to take us through, I guess, used by the right.
Yeah, so as humans, our kids in particular are sitting there and they're watching content. They're going through some type of streaming platform or traditional media. So generally, what I'm seeing is our kids are watching things like YouTube and Twitch to access a variety of content. All of that content is made by someone, which means those are all jobs. So even in the development of this short series this week, we had one of our 16-year-old interns working with us, alongside us. So he has been on Premiere Pro, working on the cutaways. He's been doing lots of the different edits. He's been helping with the captions. He's been helping with the thumbnails and creating the graphics. And all of that is a paid job. So those are, you can see that even from the very beginning, if you can get your kids involved in creating, all of that leads to further skill and potential work in the industry. I mean, I guess what we want to see is we want to see our kids creating, making new things, learning new things, and ideally you, as the parent, alongside them, kind of asking them questions, figuring out, what they're thinking and learning from them. And I know sometimes people have issues around our kids knowing more than us, but that's the world we live in. They know so much now, and so much is on them to help navigate through that with us as parents. So on the left we have platforms, and so things like mobile, console, and PC, all of that. So platform developers, those are all jobs. Those lead into the video game market. So games are played on the platforms. So we've got things like League of Legends there, that's Dota 2, Fortnite, Minecraft. All of those games had to be developed by someone. Not only did they have to be coded by someone, they had to have the storylines developed, they had to have the characters developed, they had to have the graphics developed, they had to have the effects developed, and each of those are individual jobs. Those games are usually made on game engines, where all of the coding is done. The coding is connected to the graphics, and which is connected to lots of the sound that you'll hear. So that's one whole kind of pathway. So you're kind of making games. Then if you want to engage in the content creation side of things, you might take other people's work and add to it. So you might iterate on it. Lots of kids do React videos, which is actually a really great way of getting them confident, getting them in front of the camera, getting them thinking about scripting, thinking about the whole project management side of creating content. You have to have a beginning, a middle, and the end, and you have to figure out what goes in all of those places. So getting your kids to create content in that way is really helpful, and that's something that our kids are doing all the time. So that's going through, so right in the middle, so they're kind of looking at things like Twitch and YouTube. Then on the left of that, we're seeing the esports side of things, and now you've got your players, you've got your coaches, you've got your analysts, you've got your nutritionists, you've got your physiotherapists. You have around that, you'll have lawyers and you'll have accountants who actually are experts in the esports industry. So while we're absolutely pushing for the creative and digital tech side of things, because we believe that's the future of work, not all of our children are really interested in that part of things, in that side of the industry. So if they're a more traditional interests, then there is a place for them as well. Even again, the medical side when it comes to physio and things like that. Then on the social side, we know that, so the teaching, drawing our careers, TEC puts out a report each year that asks children ages 7 to 13 to draw what they would like to be. And I think social media influencer is definitely one of the top 10, maybe in the top 5 for most children around New Zealand. So as a parent, you're like, okay, what am I going to do with that? Well, to me, what I would do with that is I would get my kids thinking about the kind of content they want to create. I would get them video editing. I would get them understanding how to do audio editing. I would get them scripting and working with their friends to develop whole skits and then film it and then go back and edit it and then stream it. Those are all of that. We could use, if your child did that, we could use them right now, because right now it's just me and Marcus. We needed a producer tonight, and we didn't have one. We didn't have one right now, so we would have used someone like that. So that's on the social media side, that they're constantly creating content in that space, and so how can we use that interest to kind of then jettison them back over to the kind of the development side? Then we would be getting you to do what you're probably already doing, which is getting them involved in things like Scratch and code.org. There are some other great, I think we'll talk about it a little bit later, but there are lots of free software opportunities out there to choose from, and lots of self-help videos. And I guess what we were just talking before, I think kids can get a little bit overwhelmed by that, because we say, hey, it's all out there, go do it. But if you were able to be involved as a parent, as a caregiver, as whānau, if you were able to kind of walk that with them, then it becomes a lot more interesting for them. They vibe off you being interested in what they're interested in. And so that's the other whole social side. Trying to think if there's anything else that came up through the interviews.
One of the big things, especially with all these skills as well, with all these different jobs and stuff out there, and of all the different things that you can learn, and like all these different soft skills and stuff like that as well, these are transferable skills. So don't just sort of think it's like, I really want to do this. This might be this one single aspect you might really want to do of game developing, and then you don't end up doing that, or you might find all of a sudden like, I actually don't want to do that anymore. That's fine. The skills that you learn within this industry are very transferable across either the industry itself or into other professions, as well. Like, so, don't be afraid that you're just, you're going out there learning something and never going to learn it again. This is one of those industries where a lot of that stuff that you do learn will be useful later on, especially, from more traditional forms of study. That's not always the case. I can remember stuff that I learned back in high school that I have never used and probably will never use. But all the stuff that I've picked up, over the years, especially working within the digital industry, have been, skills that I am still constantly using today and constantly updating myself on as well. I started out, doing my own social media and stuff long time ago, when social media really first sort of became a thing back in, MySpace and Bebo and stuff like that, when that was really popular, showing that age a little bit there. But, once I sort of understood how those worked and those, within that, how those things, come together, then even today, I'm still using the skills that I learned back then on how to run stuff then. So, again, don't be afraid of learning stuff that you're never gonna get to use again, because especially in the digital space, even though it is constantly evolving, the base ideas are still going to be there, and sort of the base type of things, it's still going to be very, very relevant moving forward as well. Even though the industry does change a lot, you don't need to worry about that.
We've got a good question here. It's about organizing short courses for intermediate school children in Auckland. There are a couple of organizations in Auckland I can think of. I can think of GameTown.
GameTown reaches out a lot to the schools in the region as well. If you want to contact us just through our website, just leave a message there, then we can help put you in contact with them.
But they're also on Facebook and they have a website, so yeah.
And also Media Design School is also starting to do reach outs into the community itself as well, up in Auckland too. So if you do want to look at getting presentations and stuff in school, there's definitely avenues for it. And if not, we can definitely help out with that.
Another question I know that came up was around subjects at school. I know my own son, I'm a parent of 2. I've got a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I've got 27 nieces and nephews. But my son is studying computer science at high school, and he's in year 12. And a little bit sad, he is only one of about 13 students in the whole class, and the whole class is over 4 years, all 4 years. He's one of probably the only Maori in his class. And it's a really cool class. He showed me the content. They use Code Avengers. Some of them are learning Python. Some of them are on game engines. They're doing web dev. It's a brilliant class, and I'm wondering, I'm scratching my head, why are there so few children in that class? So absolutely, if your kids are going into high school, getting them into computer science would be a brilliant idea, getting them into any of the digital design classes that they have, learning Photoshop, video editing. All of that can really pave the way towards kind of broader skills and deeper understanding in the digital creative tech space, and lead on to ideally something around, media design school. Waikato University have some great tertiary courses. So it's kind of working through that, and not everyone will take the more formal pathway through using university. Some of them will go to PTEs and do digital design. Some of them will just train themselves and make games, make content, and be picked up because their portfolio. I know we were talking before, getting your children to hold on to their work and then iterate on that work as they get better and better is really important. So having them even early on kind of just creating portfolios of their work so that you can go back to it and kind of think, oh, wow, this is how far I've come. All really important ways to kind of pathway your children into this space.
So yeah, that's probably one of our big takeaways from this is, create a portfolio. So if your parents out there and, your kids just out there drawing, comes up with some really good work, do actually keep a hold of stuff like that. And then if they do make a little game, in Scratch or something like that, save it. Get those things, put them together, and then that way not only can, you see their development as they start to make things that are, more and more complicated and more sort of, bigger and better, but also it shows when they do look at potential employers want to see that. They want to see what they've done. They want to see what their thought processes are, how they're, how they're thinking, how they're drawing, how they're creating. They want to see stuff like that, and they are more likely to pick up somebody who has created before than somebody who has gone and done all the tertiary study but hasn't actually created much themselves. So
yeah, exactly. I know, we're employers. We employ people to create content for us, and the first question I have is, let me see your portfolio. I want to see the breadth and the width of your work, please. And that speaks to me more than anything else.
And that's also another sort of call for back to tertiary study as well. Tertiary is not the only pathway here. The majority of people within the game industry at the moment have probably never studied gaming industry, any of their subjects at all. As I was saying before, even ourselves, none of our degrees have actually anything to do with the industry itself. But, there are different ways to go out there and to train yourself and to learn and to pick up these different skills within the industry. And as we said before, there's many different free resources out there that you can use. And of course, when you first see them, you'll be like, oh my God, what the hell do I even do with this? We understand that it can be a little bit daunting at first, but not only is there so many resources available, but YouTube has pretty much tutorials on almost anything you can imagine. Again, it just comes down to having that passion to want to learn about it and then actually putting the work in to learn. And that's kind of the big thing is you need to want to learn, and then you need to actually go out and learn and put in the work. There's no real shortcuts here, just like with anything else in the world as well. You can't skirt around and just avoid doing that work. You've got to put those hours in. You've actually got to go there and learn, create, do things. And then, as some of our guests have said, good things will happen.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, Bebo, we old. We so yeah.
We're so old.
We so old. Speaking of free resources, though, so on our website we are going to be putting up a list of some of the free resources out there, but I'll just quickly go through a couple of them as well. So like, I know most people just sort of talk about Photoshop, as like a great graphic design tool, which again, it's paid. But if you want to make graphic design, Canva is probably. I mean, we use Canva a lot.
I've been on Photoshop for years and years and years, and Canva's just so much faster.
Yeah.
Give me Canva any day.
Yeah, exactly. I got Photoshop by computer, and it's like, no, I'm going to go across and use Canva because it is that good. So yeah, if you want to do graphic design, come off, sort of like basic logos, basic web design, things like that. Canva is great, and again, totally free.
Yeah, it's a good place to start because what I think Canva does, and I think what can be hard to learn, is actually design. Like what looks good together, and things like Canva allow you to get an idea of aesthetic and give our kids, because I think our kids struggle with this. What makes good design, because they don't have any formal training in that space. So Canva kind of gives you the template, and then you can work from that. But ideally, that you'll move into things like Photoshop and the other more professional software tools.
I mean, yeah, just like I think Avril actually said it really well too. When you're first starting out, don't drop money on stuff. Don't drop money on stuff that you may or may not use. Go with the free options first. See if you like it, and then if you do like it, then you can go forward. So again, check out Canva first. If that really sort of takes off, then cool. Then you can maybe look at actually purchasing a subscription to Photoshop, but check it out first. And then like another great drawing app, one that I use on my tablet all the time as well, was Scratchpad, and that's like from Autodesk, and it's actually it's available on all platforms as well. Again, just if your kid likes to draw and they've got a tablet that's able to be used to draw, then it's another great little resource as well. Game engines, both Unity and Unreal Engine, which is what every single game / 95% of all the games, plus movies and TV shows, are being made on these two game engines as well. If anybody's out there seen The Mandalorian, I know a lot of people have. All the background scenes, all the scenery and stuff like that was all done in Unreal Engine. So, and these are both totally free to use. Again, pretty epic learning curve to want to sort of get into them. So,
but I've seen 13. 13 is a pretty good age. Our kids tend to be able to start concentrating and start dealing with more complex software. And I've seen our kids from about 13 up on both game engines, Unreal and Unity. So if you want your child to start exploring, by all means, please download it if you can. I think probably that just goes back a little bit to one of the issues we had around what's going to happen with what's going to happen to PCs. Are they going to flop? Or are they going to go big? Something we found is that there was a big push to get devices into the hands of our children, which is valiant vision. But what ended up happening is we put things like Chromebooks and kind of low spec computers into their hands, which are mostly web-based, which really eliminated access to some of our more grunty programs, things like Photoshop and the video editing software that is required, and even like games. So we've made it almost impossible for our kids to use that software on those devices. So there's going to be a real push that we see. I foresee that we're seeing esports is getting huge. We're seeing this push into digital and creative tech, and most schools got rid of their PC labs and got devices to our kids. But there's going to be this new push back to get these computers that can actually provide the skill sets that our kids are going to need into the future.
And we're already seeing that as well. I mean, Christchurch City Libraries is one of the biggest examples of this as well. Christchurch City Libraries all bought about over 100 PCs down there, and we're not talking about basic budget PCs. We're talking about full-on rigs that can run anything from Unity game engine designs to the top, to running VR and the top games. Like these are great PCs here, and they're running courses and stuff down there as well to actually help kids get into game design and things like that with Unreal Engine. Plus, they are also running esports down there too. So, it will come around. It was unfortunate that that our schooling system happened to go down the Chromebook route. Just again because they are very limited in what they can do, whereas a decent PC, you can run all these programs along as well. And as we said before, Unity and Unreal Engine, they are quite there's a lot to learn. But if you want to start off a little bit basic, Scratch is just perfect.
Absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and again, free, totally free out there. So these are free software things that you can go out there and use. If you're into video editing, like heavy into actual cinematic sort of doing like videos and stuff like that, DaVinci Resolve is a great tool, and again, it's perfectly free. If you're into audio editing, Audacity is another one, and again, totally free. So there's we'll put these things up on our site so that you can go through and see and have a look at the different options out there. Again, and for the paid stuff as well, somebody mentioned there, like they are for students, there is student discounts, there's student prices. But again, before you go dropping money on stuff like this, make sure that it is either it's something you're going to use or you're going to be comfortable with before you go and spend that money. But again, if you're in a position to spend that money, then have at it, go for it. But just be aware that once you start, you might not always be the avenue that you want to go down. And saying that, Adobe Suite is pretty good though. It's got a lot of great tools there. We use it pretty much all the time as well. So it's that's definitely one of the tools out there that's like an industry standard and that a lot of people use, and that will allow for a lot of collaborations and cross collaborations among different people as well. So definitely worth it. But cool. I think that's if we'll just keep on moving on ahead and sort of move into a little bit of the well-being space. I know we've definitely had a few questions out there, just sort of asking, a little bit about sort of well-being, staying safe online, and just
how to find balance, how to make sure our kids are finding balance in this space. Because they can game and game and game. And
so, yeah, like, especially, so from the gaming side of things, so we'll cover, I think we'll just quickly just delve into it as well, We said it before, spending hours and hours on a game is not going to make you pro, and, it's not going to make you a game designer. But also there are certain types of games out there that you do very much want to be keeping an eye on what your kids are playing. And I'm not talking about things like GTA or Call of Duty and stuff like that. We know a lot of kids are playing those games, but those games in general, they're quite easy to talk about because, you're dealing with a violence factor, you're dealing with sort of people interacting online. We get that, and it's, it's a conversation that you still should be having with your kids. Don't just let them play games out there because everybody else is playing. Be wary of what they're playing. But the real troublesome games out there are actually the ones like the mobile games, the little apps, and these are the little free-to-play ones. And the ones I'm talking about are the ones that sort of, require you to basically zone out, tap the screen, and you get sort of, you tap the screen, whatever it is you're doing, then you get a reward. And then you go back to tapping the screen, and you get a reward. Then you can't play the game for a certain amount of time because there's a cooldown. And then you spend some in-game currency to speed up the cooldown so you can go back to tapping and then get the reward again. So games like that are very addictive. And so, we're not going to, even though we're very much in the game industry, we love games, there are games out there that you should not let kids play. And games like that are very much ones that you should stay away from. But again, the problem is because they are free, we tend to allow our kids to play these free apps because, hey, they're free. It doesn't require us spending any money there. Again, be aware and actually look at the kind of games that your kids are playing. And if they're playing games like that, get them away from them. Find them another game, find them a better free game out there that actually requires them to think and to actually interact and, actually do something. So that's kind of the big thing on just those sort of games there. Is there anything else to add on that?
No.
So yeah, crappy free apps, stay away from them. And that's not to say that AAA games and stuff like that don't have their own sort of problems around loot boxes and things like that. That again, that is an issue. But as long as you're, as parents out there, aware of what your kids are playing, and talk to them about what they're playing. Actually be involved, and that way you can very much try and get on top of any kind of possible issues that might arise from that.
And I know something. So we've been in this space for a little while now, and we created a program around actually digital well-being because it was a gap that we saw. We saw our children are being encouraged to spend time in online spaces, but we haven't, as parents, as teachers, as schools, as community, actually given them the values they need to be aware of when they go into those spaces. So in the past, those spaces were created by our generation, right? So they're known to be toxic. And just like there's a huge push in schools now about consent and teaching our children consent, we would love to see a push around ethics and values in online spaces so that our kids, when they go into these spaces, they actually understand what's expected of them, that they're going to be respectful to one another, that they're going to keep track of their words and mind them, that they're not going to lash out with inappropriate language. And the reality is that a lot of them do, because that's just accepted. And it's about sitting down with our children and kind of just working through how they respond to stress when they're online, when they're in game, and figuring out if how they're reacting is the most appropriate way. I talk to lots of parents who go through countless headsets and controllers, and in my own house even monitors, because in particular our boys, but not always, will get frustrated or are full of that adrenaline rush because they are playing a game, and they lash out. And it's about kind of really taking time and talking with our children about how they're responding to that, and are there better ways. It's not, you can't just kind of get out of the game, can't leave the field. So sitting down with them, working out, you probably hear if they're yelling in their room. So having a talk with why that's happening, how they might change that behavior when that behavior occurs, how they might mitigate it. I know my son he keeps like light things around, like a bag with boxes in it that he'll throw because it doesn't hurt anything, because he recognizes that he needs to relieve stress, but he wants to do so in a way that's not going to hurt anything in the room. So things like that. So it's kind of just getting to the heart of how our children are, and giving them some guidance in how they should be. So we push in our program, we really push our children to understand the value of mana and respect for themselves, respect for others, and using words respectfully. We really push the value of manakitanga, the idea that they should care for one another, especially when they're in a team. Quite often they don't do that even in teams. And as parents, we're really pushing the value of kaitiakitanga. We really want our parents to understand that it's our job to guide our children. We see the value of, I always liken it to crossing roads. So we see the importance of giving our kids the tools they need to cross the road. We don't just tell them don't cross the road. We tell them look right, look left, listen, wait. We actually give them a set of tools that they understand how to use, and then use them successfully to cross the road. And it's no different when it comes to online spaces. So, what tools do you want to equip them with? What do we want to tell them to prepare for, so that when they go into this space, they're better able to anticipate how it's going to be and then react appropriately.
So one of the big things in the past is online and offline have always been treated as two separate entities. And, when it first came out, that was the case. But now the online world dominates so much of our lives. It is everywhere you do, from your banking to your social lives to everything else, your jobs even, all revolves around this online world. And so the notion of what happens online and what happens offline are different, that's long been gone out the window. But as a society, we haven't quite caught up to that yet, and caught up to the idea to sort of realizing that. And that's what we're really trying to push with this as well, is just that idea that the online and offline worlds are basically the same. What you do online reflects who you are offline. These days, we know if you say something bad online and people catch onto that, that's going to affect you very much in the real life now. You can't hide behind that keyboard. You can't hide behind that screen anymore. And again, building on these values as well is what we really need to teach our young ones, because our generation, we kind of screwed that up. Everybody remembers when consoles first came out, and then all of a sudden Xbox Live and PlayStation Network and that, when they first came out, everybody was thrown online and we can talk to each other, and we're just like, yeah, we can talk to each other. What are we going to do? We're just going to straight out abuse it's abuse, it's swearing, it's just going hard. The language back in those days was absolutely terrible. But that's just how we acted, because we were given these great new tools, and instead of using them, we just decided to, treat them poorly. But, these days we realize, because, the online world is such more integrated into our lives now, we can't really do that anymore. Yet a lot of us, still, old habits are very hard to break. And of course the kids, they see that. We have kids who come through, and, when they're playing the games, and then when that adrenaline starts coming through, because, we know kids get excited in the games. Hell, I get excited playing the games. Everybody gets excited playing games. It's something we just do. You can't really turn that off, and, you shouldn't turn it off, but you need to learn how to deal with it. And, again, kids, they're taught how to sort of, deal with these things on the sports fields, but they're not taught how to deal with these things within the gaming environment, yet they're exactly the same. It's that same adrenaline rush, that same type of thing that's coming on there. And we hear these kids, when they come in, and we just hear them, just swearing, yelling away and stuff like that. But, again, the problem is, they've picked this up from either online or from friends, family, parents, cousins, aunties, uncles, and stuff like that, because that's our generation. That's how our generation acted online. And so, at some point, we need to make that change. And, change starts with us as well, but we also want, the kids to be growing up in an environment where they're saying, it's like, right, this is actually not cool. This is not right. Sorry, don't do what we're doing anymore, and we need to stop, and you need to stop. And hopefully that way we can start to see a bit of improvement. Again, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen probably in a generation's time. It's, it's something that's going to be something that will be forever worked towards, to hopefully one day we can actually fix that as well. And just sort of lastly, a bit of a touch on, because I do, going again with that TEC report, a lot of people out there, a lot of young people out there, they want to be the big YouTube stars, they want to be famous and stuff like that. You need, as parents, you do need to be aware of that. With fame, especially internet fame, comes a whole lot of problems. And a lot of people, especially internet stars as well, they're not quite prepared for what happens once they become famous, and then when everything goes sour, because it's almost guaranteed to happen at least once. So then these are big things that a lot of YouTube stars, a lot of Twitch stars and that, they come out there and they're not prepared to deal with that, because once you're out there in the public eye, once people are out there seeing you, when you're getting like thousands of viewers, people coming through there, all of a sudden things change a lot. So, when all those people are watching you, they're going to be starting wanting more of you. They're going to be saying, wanting to pull you this direction, pull you that direction. They're going to be saying, hey, we want to see this content. Why aren't you doing this? Oh, you've sold out. Oh, you're not the person you used to be before. There's all these different things will be out there happening too. And so if you aren't prepared for this, you see it all the time with with YouTube stars, especially, and Twitch stars. They are not prepared for the rigors that happen when you reach internet fame. And so, again, just for those parents out there who are, of the kids who want to be famous, it's cool to want to be famous, but especially with the internet as well, like you need to be aware of just what exactly you're getting yourself into. And it's not all fun and games. It can be very serious out there too. So, and that's, and that can be even from small kids, for small followings and stuff like that, up to, our famous content creators as well. So again, just be wary.
And quickly, Sub-Zero, I did see that question. That was a good question. Will Unreal help indie developers create AAA games?
Oh, hell yes.
Absolutely.
I mean, Unreal Engine is used and it is that's the big daddy. That's the industry standard. Unreal is the boss. But in saying that, Unity is still pretty damn good too.
But yeah, thank you everyone for coming along. We really appreciate you taking the time. And it was just you coming to this session means so much. It means that you're taking your interest, the interest your children have in this space really seriously. And we thank you. We know when we often try to speak with parents, and it is hard. You know, you have busy schedules, you're running households, you're working. So to take the time tonight to listen to us, to kind of work through how you might pathway your children into this space means a lot. Thank you.
And again, if we know this will be going back up online, so you'll be able to leave messages as you go through, and for people who maybe rewatch this. But again, if not, if you do have any other questions and stuff like that, you can always find us at Digital Natives Academy across social media and anything else. So please feel free to send us through a message if you do want to chat, or if there's something that you're not quite clear about. And again, also make sure you go check out the Get Into Gaming website at getintogaming.nz. Again, you'll be able to reach out for us in there, and also there is the links to all the free resources and stuff we will be putting up there as well, so you'll be able to find those there. And make sure you tune in tomorrow for our second to last day, where we've got some of New Zealand's biggest content creators who will be gracing our screens, and they've got some great advice out there as well for any of our young ones looking to possibly make themselves as a YouTube star. And then, of course, Friday will be just sort of wrapping things up with a look at some of the industry players around the country. So thank you very much for everybody for tuning by, and we will be seeing you guys soon, hopefully. See you later.